Greetings, loves. This is Annette of AnnetteLeonard.com, back with Chronic Wellness. I have been absent for the last couple of weeks, and for part of that time, I had the glorious pleasure of spending time with dear friends of ours on the Northern California coastline. Now, this is a trip that we have been making together for the last 5 years, I think, with friends of ours that live in LA. And so we started going there just because on a map, it was about equidistant between our two homes. And then we discovered such beautiful gems and a coastline that we could never get tired of, and so many small little places around the towns we've been finding that we could continue to delight in, that's just been our habit, is to continue to go back there, and it does not disappoint. But what I wanted to highlight this week is this summer I had posted to you all about the fact that I had gone camping with friends and put myself into a terrible position by going on a hike that halfway through the hike turned into sand, and I kept hiking. And to disastrous effect. And I posted about living life in our limits, and how do we, when our health fluctuates, our energy fluctuates, our pain fluctuates, our illnesses fluctuate, all of these things are in motion. How do we on a daily basis try to assess, what can I do today, and then live right up to it? Because I don't mean to leave cards on the table. I don't mean to leave stones unturned. I am really trying to maximize my capacity for joy and fullness in all the ways that I can. And what I have to report about this journey is more of a success story. So we were there and together for a week. And I had done some anxiety and dread building things before we left that I'll tell you about in other episodes. But what I mean to tell you about while we were there is that on 2 occasions, I said, yes, I'd like to go. And I looked ahead at some of the maps and thought about what would probably work for me. And I got to go on hikes. There were some that I said no to, and some day trips that I thought, I'll sit this one out and I'll rest. And I did a good job deciding what I was capable of. And at some points, for example, on the second hike, we hiked down to a cliff's edge that was part of a bay, where we got to just look down on this bowl of the Pacific Ocean and see half a dozen seals bobbing in that bay, having their brunch, and this one super fat seal sunning himself on a huge boulder, and from time to time a wave would knock him off of it and he'd look sort of offended and then just belly on up to the rock again and continue the process. And it was very clear that he was clocking us. You know, he was watching us out of one or both eyes from time to time. And I would have missed that if I hadn't signed up to go and planned for it and prepared and brought my oxygen and all the things that I needed to do. And we were at a state park, and after that part of the hike, I sat down and other members of our group continued on and went to a visitor center and did another part of a hike. And that was enough for me. I waited until they were through, and I didn't do so much that it was punishing. I didn't do so much that I couldn't enjoy the next day, all four of us together. I didn't overshoot my limits to the point that I paid too dearly to enjoy the rest of my vacation time. And so I just wanted to celebrate a little win here and talk about something I did well. And I got home, and within a few days of our arrival, our friend who routinely picks up groceries for us on the weekend brought them by at a time when my wife was resting. She had the chance to get a booster vaccine, and the next day she was a little under the weather. And the friend was handing in one of those grocery sacks in a reusable bag. And I thought I could just pick it up, not knowing that it was the bag full of all the liquids and the canned goods, and was exceedingly heavy. And as I went to take it from her, I pulled a muscle in my back. And so, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I'm talking to you with a heat pad on my back and with very little mobility. And it's not because I overshot my limits. And it is another thing to deal with, because life is always handing us things to deal with, right? Roll with the next wave, address the next situation, deal with the next thing at hand. And when it comes to assessing, there's this calculus. And it's an imperfect science. There's no way to know exactly what I can get up to each day, and if I've predicted right, or if the activity will be just as I thought it was, or if my energy will hold in the ways that I expect, if my body will react in the ways I expect. And there's nothing more worthwhile than figuring these things out. You are worth it. I am worth it. And so, while it is imperfect, I will continue to try to make these assessments and adjustments, and I hope you will too. Because living our lives to maximum capacity is the best thing we can do for ourselves, our hearts, and our mental health. So, tell me about the ways that you are living fully. Tell me about the ways that you have predicted right or predicted wrong. Tell me what tips or tricks you have to game the system. I'll be really glad to hear, and I know we could all learn from your experiences too. Until we're together again, I hope there are some things lighting up your world. Be well.